and Stephen A. Smith was there to see it, and he joins us live from Cleveland. Steve, I made the joke earlier. The Golden State Warriors were wondering if their locker room would smell like champagne, and when the game was over, it certainly felt like the Cleveland locker room should smell like something entirely different. It is a regular season game in January, so I would ask you, how big a deal was what you saw last night?
Well, I think it was a very big deal, fellas, simply because of the manner in which the Cleveland Cavaliers got annihilated. You got to remember that Steph Curry walked into the arena alluding to the smell of champagne and how they're the reigning defending NBA champions. That was basically the message that he was trying to send. And sure enough, it amped up the Cleveland Cavaliers. It elevated their level of motivation. And they came into the game despite all of that and looked absolutely horrible. Speaking to numerous guys after the game, whether it be LeBron James, Kyrie Irving, they obviously admitted to the beatdown that all of us saw. But a guy like Tristan Thompson also highlighted about how highly motivated they were to play this game and to have to go back to the drawing board because of the manner in which they were completely shellacked and embarrassed. It just is an alarming message. We all know that the Cleveland Cavaliers are expected to come out of the East because no matter who you look at in the East, it doesn't compare to the arsenal that Cleveland has. But that's just in the Eastern Conference. As it pertains to an NBA Finals, we've been given absolutely positively no reason whatsoever over the last few days to believe that last year's results would be any differently this time around, because Cleveland, at the end of the day, it appears, will be looking up at somebody else, and LeBron James will lose another NBA Finals simply because the guys that he has around him aren't good enough. Kevin Love, just 3 points. Kyrie Irving, that's just an aberration. We all know he had an off night. He's better than 8 points, but Kevin Love cannot defend anybody. And for him to put up 3 points after just getting $113 million, you got a lot of guys looking at him and saying, what's up with that? And, of course, they've got questions about the coach, Blatt, as well. So it's just a lot of stuff going on in Cleveland. Yes, they are 28-11. They've been winning games. But to get beat down the way that they got beat down is a very humbling experience, because no matter what they do the rest of the way, everybody will be looking to what transpired last night and saying it's just more of the same.
Yeah, you know, when you look at the win on Christmas Day for Golden State, that was a low-scoring game. Still their only win where they didn't score 100 points. So they beat Cleveland in a low-scoring game, and they blew them out in a high-scoring game. So we believe it's going to be Golden State or San Antonio there, that both teams have beaten Cleveland. What's Cleveland's biggest issue? What do they need to clean up the most for them to actually compete with these teams?
Well, first of all, you have to have a reliable second option to LeBron James. Kyrie Irving is still getting back, finding his rhythm. There are games that he's looked really stellar. There are other games where he hasn't so much. But really the key for me is Kevin Love, because Kevin Love is somebody you have to play. Remember, they gave him $113 million in the offseason. He's averaging 15 and 10 on the season, but playing together with Kyrie Irving and LeBron James doesn't seem to be working out for them. You also have to remember, guys, they gave up Andrew Wiggins, the #1 overall pick. You were willing to ship him to Minnesota. It was all because the window of opportunity is now. You've got to capitalize on the fact that LeBron James is there, and you're wondering how many years you're going to have him at your disposal. So when you look at Kevin Love and what he's incapable of doing for you defensively, that's a liability issue. And then offensively, because he hasn't had to play third fiddle until he arrived in Cleveland, it's a challenge for him as well. Then the other thing is Coach Blatt. I spoke to him after the game, and he said, Stephen A., we can sit there and complicate it all we want to. What it comes down to is that we didn't show up to play tonight. It's just that simple. We played them competitively on Christmas Day. The point that I was trying to make, watching these guys play last night, for Steph Curry and Klay Thompson to come out there and to combine to hit 5 3-pointers in the first quarter alone, sending the message that they were not going to be stopped. All of a sudden, Cleveland gets tight offensively because they know every single possession they have to make count, because if they don't, they can't stop Golden State, especially with Kevin Love on the floor. So if you've got that malady to deal with, then it's causing you trouble on the offensive end. The only thing that can save you outside of LeBron James is coaching. And David Blatt when you look at the other coaches, even though he's going up against Luke Walton, you're really going up against guys that know how to play together. But David Blatt with the Princeton offense and what have you, that was supposed to be incorporated because that's what they advertised when they gave him the job. We haven't seen anything like that. And you've got guys shaking their head, looking at the coach, wondering what he can come up with. And David Blatt stood there most of the time, pretty much helpless to do anything.
Mike and Stephen A., who's live in Cleveland. Of course, ESPN First Take coming up on ESPN2, top of the hour, as they follow us here every single day. We did hear talk about the possibility they may be looking to move a guy like Timothy Mozgov, other tinkering. They've got about a month to do it. Do you see the Cavaliers tinkering with the roster in any significant way, in part maybe based upon the fact that they haven't been able to beat Golden State or San Antonio?
Well, I happen to know for a fact that they are looking to make some moves. With who specifically, we're not sure as of yet, but David Griffin, the GM, is definitely going to try to do something before the trading deadline. Mozgov's name has been out there, and just as recently as last night, being inside the arena, I heard about the possibility of Kevin Love. Now, I find that extremely unlikely simply because if he's a guy that's limited athletically, even though he can rebound and he can definitely shoot from the perimeter, particularly threes, the price of $113 million seems a bit steep right now. But if you can get your hands on a big-time player for the services of Kevin Love and Mozgov, you never know. I know that the Cleveland Cavaliers would love to get their hands on DeMarcus Cousins. I think it would be absolutely insane for Sacramento to turn around and move a guy like DeMarcus Cousins, who I believe to be the best big man in the game, for a Mozgov and a Kevin Love. But you just don't know what's going on right now. They know they have to do something because, like I said, LeBron James recognizes that this team simply is not good enough. He knows they're very good, but they're not on the level that Golden State and San Antonio is on. LeBron James all but admitted that last night. Kyrie Irving all but admitted that last night. The rest of the players themselves were humbled to such epic proportions. They absolutely know emphatically that that is not the case. They got a lot of work ahead of them because they fully expect to come out of the East. But they don't want to lose another NBA Finals. But particularly when you watch what you saw put on display by Golden State last night, how could anybody possibly believe that this Cleveland Cavaliers team is going to win a championship with either Golden State or San Antonio predicted to be the one standing in their way? Nobody believes that right now.
And very quickly, Stephen A., the one moment, among the moments that'll stand out last night, the frustration, J.R. Smith, who's had his ups and downs with the league office, throwing Harrison Barnes to the ground, sort of running himself through a screen, and got a flagrant 2. What do you expect the fallout from that to be?
Well, it definitely at least a fine and a possible one-game suspension because, once again, there's history there with J.R. Smith, who, ironically crazy, is a really, really good guy off the court in most situations. But sometimes he loses his head, and it's something that's causing the Cleveland Cavaliers a headache, particularly LeBron James. You're tired of finding yourself in these situations where J.R. Smith is not going to be available because he makes a knuckleheaded play due to frustration. Can't happen. Happened last year in the playoffs against Boston. Happened last night. Simply cannot happen. He's got to get his act together, plain and simple.
It's Stephen A. Smith. Again, First Take coming up about 45 minutes from now on ESPN2 with Molly and Skip and company. Thank you, Steve. Very much enjoyed it.
No problem, guys. Take care.